Today, I'm going to walk you through 3 easy steps to get your blog set up on your WordPress website using Elementor Pro. Whatever your main content is in your business, you want to get it published on your website, and Elementor Pro makes this so easy. So I'm really excited to show you how to do this on your website today. Okay, so we are logged into the back end of our website, and hopefully you've been following along in my WordPress website building series where we've been building out this website together. This is the homepage, the header, and the footer, and I do have this as a free template. If you don't have that, you can sign up for that down below. But back in our dashboard, the first step that we want to do is to create a single post template. And this is another reason why Elementor is so awesome, because we get to use this template system to set all of this up. There's one step we want to do first. So we're going to come over here to posts, and we're going to come into categories, and you first want to assign your blogging categories. Now, you may have a blog, you may have a podcast, maybe you have a YouTube channel, whatever type of core content you're publishing, you want to create like a parent category for that. So I'm going to create one for blog and say add new category. If I also had a podcast, I would say podcast and add that category. Now these are what I call parent categories. They're like the core type of content first. And then you want to assign the, brand topics, if you will, that you talk about. If you're a life coach and you have a blog, maybe you have one for relationships, and that's one of your topics that you discuss. If you have one for mindset, and maybe you have one for self-care. So once you have your parent categories and then your topic categories, or these are called child categories, then we are good to go. So we're going to come over back to the left and come into templates. We want to come down here to theme builder. And right now Elementor is still in the old theme builder screen where we've got these tabs. They are switching to a new theme builder. So we're going to go ahead and use that now. So say try it now. And here you can see we have our header and our footer that we built out in the previous tutorials, or if you grabbed that template. We want to do a single post template today, so we're going to click on the plus sign next to single post, and we're not going to use any of the Elementor templates, so we can X out of this. All right, and in creating a single post template, we're essentially creating another header and another footer. So this is like the shell of every post that you're going to create. And I pulled up Copyblogger's website as an example here, because Copyblogger is one of I think they're in the top 3 of all bloggers in the world in terms of how well their blogs do, how much revenue they generate. They get hundreds of millions of dollars from their blog. So they're a great example to follow. And I just want to show you the structure of their blog. They start off with a title. They have some information about who wrote it and when it was written, social links. They've got a featured image. Then they scroll down into their content. They've got a little bit of a sidebar here, but they don't have too much. It's not a lot going on the sidebar, so it's really easy to read. If you keep scrolling down, you can see their content is really, there's a lot of white space. The font is a decent size. They bold their headings. They've got different color and underline for any links throughout their article. They've got a lot of things to break it up and make it easy to read. And then down at the bottom, they've got social links again. They've got the filed under categories. They've got an author bio. They've got the previous article to keep you reading. They've got reader comments, and I don't actually suggest putting comments on your blog. It can be an invitation for spam, and unless that's something that you're prepared to manage in your business, I wouldn't even do it. And then all the way at the bottom after the comments, they've got an opt-in for their email list. So their blog is a great example of how to set this up on your site. So we're going to use this as a jumping off point. So for our header for our blog, we're going to start off by clicking this plus sign, a single column. We'll go in and grab some widgets. Now, right away, Elementor is pulling in our single post widgets. So these are all things that apply to a single blog post. So the first thing that we want is the post title, and this is dynamic. So once we assign a post title, it'll pull it over into every post. And we've already set up our font styling too in a previous tutorial. So if you don't have that set up, you're going to want to come in here to the style section and set your text color and your typography settings. Or if you just want to change the title of your blog post to look different, that's fine too. All right, now I just want to make this centered, and you can see it automatically made it an H1 tag. That is what you want. You want your post title to be your H1 tag. And remember, you only want one H1 tag on on your page, and this is good. So the next thing we want in our widgets is our post info. And you can see that this pulled over my email address because my ID for this website is my email address, and yours probably is too. So we definitely want to change that, but we also don't want the date or the time. I don't suggest putting the date on your post because then they can be evergreen. That's up to you. You may want to date your post. If you are consistently updating your post too, you can always put, updated on certain dates and things like that. But otherwise, I do suggest just leaving it off and leaving it as evergreen content. So we'll go ahead and take the date and the time off, and we'll take comments off. We're going to come in here to the author section, and instead of saying the type as author, we're actually going to change this to custom, and I'm just going to put my name in the custom box here. All right, and I'm going to turn off the link, and we're going to add one more item. And instead of putting the category down at the bottom of the post, I'm going to actually put it up at the top of the post here. So for type, we're going to come here to terms, and the taxonomy, we are going to choose the category, and we will leave the link on for that. So now we can't see this because we don't have any actual posts on our site yet, but it'll pull in the category right next to the author name here. And you may want to come back in and play with the spacing. And if you want to edit the text, you can come down here and edit the text color and the typography. But right now it's pulling over our site settings for us. So I do want to come in here and make this centered. Okay, so we'll go back to our widgets. We're going to grab some social sharing icons. So I'm going to search for those. Okay, we want these share buttons right here. Okay, and it pulled in Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. I want to also add Pinterest. And you can choose whichever social links you want. You may want different ones, but these are kind of the core 4. Now we want to set the style of these. So right now we've got icon and text, or we can change it to just an icon or to just text. I'm going to keep it at icon and text. And for skin, you can choose the skin you want. I like this plain flat. And then we're going to come here to the shape, and I'm going to choose rounded. And you can have this in different columns. We're going to leave it at one column, and we're going to go ahead and make this centered. The target URL we're going to leave because we want these to share over the current page, so that's correct. Now we're going to come in style. You can change the gap between these, and we don't have multiple rows, so that's okay. And then we can change the button size, and we can change the icon size, and we can change the button height, and that looks good. And the color is set to official, but you can change this to custom if you want it to be more in line with your brand. I'd like to leave it at the custom colors. I think it helps to offset the social links. But if you wanted to change the typography of the buttons, you could also come in here too, and you could really make these, customized and branded for your business. Now, one more thing I want to do here is up top. This title is right next to my header, so I want to add some space in here. So I'm going to select this section and go into advanced, click on M's and unlink, and I'm going to add some padding at the top. I'm going to add a little bit at the bottom just with one M. Okay, and I think this looks really good for this part of our header. So I'm going to click on this plus sign and add a new section. And this is another reason why I love Elementor, is you can really separate everything into their own section. So the next section is going to be our featured image. So we're going to pull that over. We don't have any posts yet, so we can't see what this image is going to look like, but I am going to go ahead and come in here to my style section. I'm going to turn the max width up to 100, and I'm going to set the width to about 50%. And we'll see what that looks like, just so the picture's not too big. And I do want to add a little bit of padding on the right and the left-hand side. So we'll come into advanced, go to M's, unlink. I think 5 on either side is a good starting point. And let's just put 1 on the top and 1 on the bottom, just so there's some nice space around this image. Okay, and that's it for the header portion of our single post template. The next step is to do our footer portion. Before we do the footer section, we need to tell this post template where we want the blog post content to go. So we're going to click on the plus sign, click on the single column, back into our widgets, and we want this post content widget, and we're going to drag that in here. Okay, and this is grayed out, just like our featured image was grayed out when we pulled it over, because there's no content to fill this up yet. This is, again, some more dynamic content that will get pulled in with every blog post. But now we're ready to create our footer, so we'll click on that plus sign, choose a single column. Okay, and again, Copyblogger put their email opt-in all the way at the very end after their comments. I like to actually put it right at the end of the article, right above the author box and the social share icons. So I'm going to put that first, but you can put it wherever you want in your footer section of your post. And if you created this homepage with us, then you've got this section for your freebie opt-in right here on your homepage. I'm going to actually come to this homepage, select this section, and right click and say copy, come back into my post, and I'm going to come down here in the bottom and say paste. Now that pulled over everything from that homepage for that opt-in. Now the only thing I don't like about this is is that it is full width, and I want it to be more of a box that's in line with the article as well. So I'm going to change this a little bit. If you don't have this set up, all this is a 2-column intersection with an image, a header, a form, and some text. Now I have this entire section set to be this gray background. So we're going to actually turn that off by coming here. I'm in the section in the style and turning off this background. And on this intersection tab, I'm going to come to the style. I'm going to come to the background type, and I'm going to make this that gray color. Okay, so now we just need to add a little padding to the top and to the bottom. So come into advanced, go to M's, unlink, and that looks good. Now I just want to make this a little bit smaller. Again, I don't want it all the way stretched out like that. Maybe you do. I just want mine in a little bit more. So to make this smaller, I'm actually going to come here to the outer section once again. And if you have any trouble grabbing any of these sections, you can always come into your navigator and grab your section from here. Okay, but with the outer section, I'm going to come into the layout. And for boxed, I'm going to grab this slider. Okay, now that looks good. That's exactly what I want. Now I'm just going to edit this image to make this look a little bit better. So I'm going to come here to the style. I'm going to play with this width, and that looks good. And I'm going to add a little bit of padding to the top. And if we look at this live, this looks really good. One more small thing is I do have this column offset just a little bit. I'm going to come here to this column and come into my advanced tab and see where I have a -2 padding. I'm actually going to turn that off, or maybe just leave it at -1. I think that looks good. That just pulls it off the edge just a little bit, and that looks really good. So now we have our opt-in box. I'm going to take this section we started earlier and drag it down underneath it now. Or if you don't have that section, you want to click on your plus sign. And now we want to add an intersection. So we don't need a single post widget for this. We need a basic intersection. We'll drag that in there, and we'll come back to our widgets and pull in a heading. And over on this side, we want our social share icons again. So you could come and find those and restyle those, but I'm just going to come back up top and copy these ones that we already set up and paste them down here. Now I want this to also be aligned with this box here. So I'm going to grab this outer section, and for the box section, I'm just going to type in 900. So now this should be aligned with this. Now I do need to make my social share icons. I either need to make them smaller, or I can come in here and make this column bigger. So let's try 60. There we go. That looks good. Our heading is going to be share this post, and we'll come in and style this. I'm going to leave this my default typography, but I'm going to make the size a little bit bigger. I'm going to make this uppercase. That looks good. And we're going to change the weight, and we're going to change the letter spacing. This looks good. And one thing I don't like is how this is pulled in. So I'm actually going to make my section just a little bit bigger, and I need my social icons to be right aligned. This looks good. Now this lines up more with our opt-in box. Okay, the next thing I want to do is come into my widgets, and I want a divider. So I'm going to pull in this divider, and I want to change the color. I want it to be pretty subtle, but I just like the visual divider. So I'm going to change the color. I'm going to start with this light gray text color, and I'm going to come back in and click on this color, and I'm going to pull the slider bar to make it a little more opaque. Okay, that looks really good. And then I'm going to come back into my widgets, and I'm going to grab this author box and drag that over. Okay, again, it's pulled over my information as my login ID for the website, and I don't want that. So instead of the source being the current author, I'm going to change this to custom. And you need to pull in your profile picture. So I'm going to choose an image. Okay, and then you'll put your name. I'm not going to add a link, and then you need to put in your biography. So again, over on our homepage, one of the things that we did was create this mini bio section on your homepage. So if you did this already, you can come in here and grab this mini bio. If you look at Copy Blogger, their author bio section is about 3 sentences. So you want to keep it pretty short. So come back into your homepage bio, and you can cut this down just a little bit more. You only need like 2 or 3 sentences. So I'm going to grab these first 2 sentences. Okay. And then we're going to leave the alignment and the layout, and we're going to come into the style. So we can play with the image size here. We're going to make it more round. All right, 100 looks good. You can play with the gap here, the gap between the image and the text. We're not going to add a border, but if you wanted one, you could put one in there, and a box shadow. You could really turn this into its own little box, just like we did for your opt-in if you wanted to, but I'm going to leave it pretty subtle. You can edit the styling of the text here, and I am going to make my text just a little bit smaller. I'm going to leave the name, but you might want to play with the color or the typography of your name. Again, you can play with the gap between your name and the text. You can really customize everything in here. I'm going to come here to my biography, typography, and I want to make the size smaller. Okay, and 15 looks good. So then what we want to do next is grab our divider again, and I'm going to right click and duplicate it. And I'm going to grab this divider and drag it underneath. If you take a look at this, this is looking really good. Okay, so next we want to come into our widgets. We actually want to grab a heading. So we're going to drag that in under our divider. And we want this to say something like, read this next, keep reading, something like that. I want this to be styled just like this share this post. So I'm going to copy this share this post and come to keep reading and say paste style. Okay, now we'll come back to our widgets and we want to grab our post navigation here. So I'm going to drag that in under keep reading. And we don't actually have any posts, so we can't see. This would say next over here with the title of the post. Right now it's pulling over like another template that I have set up instead of a post as a demo, but we can style it from what we see in here. So I'm going to leave the labels as previous and next. You can turn it on or off, up to you. You can have the arrows show. You can change with the arrows what the type of the arrows are. You can really customize this. Now here in this same term, this is a really cool setting because you can come in here and you can say all posts and then set the post taxonomy. So you can choose a category, and that way anything that if this post is in the blog category, then down here, this will only show more blogs. So if you also are posting podcasts on your website, you can create a podcast template, and then that will only show for the podcasts down here in your navigation. We aren't doing that in this tutorial, so we're going to leave that as is and come into style. We obviously don't want this color, so I'm going to come here and change this color to be my text color. And the typography is fine. It's a little small, but that's fine. We're going to come here to the title and change the color. And we'll make this just a little bit darker. And I am going to change the typography because that is very small. Okay, 17 looks good. I'm going to come here to the transform and I'm going to make it capitalized. Okay, and that looks good. So now if we take a look at this, everything is set up, but it's right on top of my footer here. So I want to add a little bit of space between the end of this template and my actual footer. I'm going to grab this outer section here, come into advanced, click on M's, unlink. I'm going to add about 4 to the bottom, and that looks good. So this looks a little funky right now because we don't have an actual article, but this is our template. So we have a header section, and there will be a featured image in here. We've got a space for our post content, and then we've got our footer section as well with an opt-in, share links again, our author bio, and the post navigation. Okay, so now we want to come in and click on our green publish button. This is going to ask where we want to display our template. So we want to add a condition. We want this on all singular posts, but you could come in here and assign this to certain categories. So again, if you have a blog, a podcast, if you're posting your YouTube videos as a post, you can assign those parent categories and create different templates for each parent category. If all of your mindset posts have a certain layout that you want, you can also assign different child categories to certain templates. So you can really customize this whole content system on your website using these templates. But we're going to leave it at all singular for now and save and close. Now, the other really cool thing about this template is if you come in and edit this template in the future, it will automatically apply all the edits to all of the posts that have this template in place. So you don't ever have to go back through, and if you decide to update your author bio in the future, you won't have to go into every single post and update it. It will automatically update. If you change your freebie, you can come in here to the template and change your freebie section, and it will automatically update it on all of your posts. So just keep that in mind too, that this is really kind of the core content that you want to have on every post. You might share different downloads and different links within the post content of every post, but this is more of what you want on every single blog post. So your own header and footer, if you will. Okay, we can exit out of this now. Okay, step 2 is to actually create the post content template. So in order to do that, we're going to come in and create a new post. So come here to post and say add new. Now, anytime you create a post with this system, you're going to start off here in this WordPress editor, and then we're going to go into Elementor, but there's some things you want to do back here first. So first we need to add a title, okay, and you'll have your target keyword title here. I'm going to copy that and come down here into Yoast SEO. So again, in one of the previous tutorials, I had you install the Yoast SEO plugin, and this is really just a guide for SEO. It's definitely not a perfect plugin, but it's a really good jumping off point just to make sure you're following some basic SEO guidelines. So first it's asking for a focus key phrase. So we're going to paste our title in there. Your whole title may not be your focus key phrase. In fact, target keyword will just be our key phrase. And then you want to come down to the Google preview, and you can see right here what this article is going to look like on Google, on mobile, and on desktop. And you've got your title and then the author, and then you've got a little snippet. So down here, this is the SEO title that we see here in Google. You may not want your author name on there, so we could always get rid of that, but then it turns orange, like, so it's telling you that it's not long enough. I think orange or green are okay. You definitely, want to go for green, but if it doesn't make sense, don't make it green just to get it to green. So I'm going to leave it at title and page. We don't want to edit the slug. The slug here is anything after the .com in your URL. So up here, everything after onlinestrategycoach.com is considered the slug. Well, it's essentially considered the slug. That's a really bad example, but basically the title of your article will be the slug, and you don't want to edit that. It automatically pulls that over. But we do want to come in here and edit our meta description. I suggest this being, a sentence or two from the beginning of your actual article. This tutorial isn't all about how to write a really effective blog post, so I'm going to keep it really simple, but you do want to keep a keyword rich and enticing meta description here. And right now we're just going to go for green. Okay, and there we go. We've got a green score. So we've set up our SEO settings. We're going to come over here on the right-hand side, and we're going to scroll down to assign a category. So the parent category first is blogging. And then if there's a child category that this belongs in, you want to select that as well. So we'll go ahead and select mindset. Down here, it's going to say select the primary category, and we've set it to blog. You can add any additional tags here, and then you want to set a featured image. Okay, and that's everything that we want to do in the WordPress editor. So now I'm going to save this as a draft and come in to edit with Elementor. Okay, and because our single post template is assigned to all single posts, it already pulled in our header and our footer that we set up. Now it looks a little funny because you can see we've got some editing to do just to tweak this and make this a little bit better. Like, I don't want this icon next to either parts here, and we want to edit the way this category is showing up. I might want to add some more space between everything here as well. And then here's our featured image. This looks good. And they left us a space here to come in here and add the content in the article, and that's what that template created for us. Then down here we have our footer. We don't have anything under keep reading because we don't have any other articles yet. But this is looking really good so far. So let's come in here and click a plus sign, do a single column. So with every blog article, you basically have your beginning, your middle, and your end. The beginning is your intro paragraph. The middle is really the bulk of the content. And then you kind of have your wrap up at the end. So for the beginning here, it's really just an opening paragraph. We're going to grab in a text editor. We'll make this a full paragraph. Okay, now we're ready to style this. So let's come into our style editor. Let's make this centered. The text color is good, but you can change your text color here. For me, I want to add some more space between my sentences. So I'm going to come here to my line height. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. I actually think 1.6 looks good. I liked that kind of light and airy feel that Copy Blogger had, and I might make the size just a little bit bigger. And I also want to add a little padding to the sides just to pull the text in a little bit, but I'm going to do that in my section so it applies to all of my text. So if I grab my section tab and come to advanced, click on M's and on link, that looks good. And I actually don't want to keep this text centered, so I'm going to come back and make this left align. There we go. All right, that is looking really good. And for your featured images, you might want something that's wider versus taller, just so it spreads across your article, and you can edit that in Canva like we did in previous tutorials as well to really make it the size that you want. Just make sure that you're uploading it as a JPEG, the smallest file size possible, so that you're not uploading really large images into your posts. Okay, so now I'm going to grab another widget. I'm going to grab a heading widget. Now again, one of the reasons why I love using this system with Elementor is that because you're grabbing separate widgets for each new kind of idea throughout your article, you can assign an HTML tag. And this really helps with your SEO for the algorithm to better scan your articles, and it's easier for the reader to read your articles as well. So this is really great format for blogging. And you can use all the different HTML tags that you set up with your site settings. We could switch to an H3 or an H4 and keep going through all of our settings. We're going to leave it at H2, and you can still come in here to the style settings and edit this if you wanted to change the typography still. So you're not locked in. It's just our jumping off point. Okay, and we have our second paragraph. And if you wanted to add an image into your article at this point, you can come over here and grab an image and insert an image. And again, because we set the padding to this entire section, it's applying this to our image, so it keeps it right in line with our article. And that looks really great. With our image here, you can add a caption and you can add a link. So this is really great again for SEO. Okay, so I've just gone ahead and copied the headings and the paragraphs so you can get an idea for how this blog post can come together structurally, really quick and easy using your widgets in Elementor. And you can add in anything that you want here. If you want to add in quotes, just like we saw on Copyblogger, where they've got a quote section like this, you can do that as well using your widgets. You can come into widgets and you can grab a testimonial or a block quote and you can set this up here. They've even got the tweet button already in here, so you can leave that on or you can turn it off. You can change the skin here to be more of a link, and you can come here to the style and change your typography. And you can add a little padding to really offset your quote box. And there you go. You've got a really nice looking blog post. Now, this is an example without a sidebar. So I'm going to show you how to add a sidebar if you'd like a sidebar in your post as well. We're going to start by adding a new section up top here and clicking on the plus sign. And we're going to do a single column and then come over to our widgets and grab an intersection. And we want this structure here to be 6633. So then we're going to grab our main paragraph and pull that in over here. And you can actually grab these columns and pull the slider over however you'd like this. So we might want this more like 70-30. And there we go. That looks really good. And I'll just keep dragging over the rest of my article into this structure now. Okay, and now I have everything pulled over in the left-hand column, and we can set up our sidebar on the right-hand side. We'll start with an image and a header. Okay, and once you have your header and an image, you can style this. So we'll center this text. I'm going to make this image a little smaller, and that looks great. And we can come back into our widgets. We can go to, and you can do a couple different things here. You can manually add some text and, add related articles or check these articles out next, something like that. Or you can come in here to WordPress, and there are some WordPress widgets that you can pull over. You can come in here to recent posts and pull that in, give it a title, and you can tell it how many posts you want it to show. Do you want it to show the post date? Or you can come in here and you can choose like the categories. If you want to say, you might want to also check out more, mindset posts here, things like that. So you can play with how you want to set this up. And if you want to pull over a form, you can grab your form widget and pull that in and create another opt-in right here on your sidebar, which is really great as well. And I'll just add a heading to my form. I'll say sign up for the newsletter. If you want to create more space between your article and your sidebar, you can always come in here too and do this in a couple different ways. So we can select this section tab, and we've got a columns gap, and right now it's set to default. But you can make this extended, or you can make this wide or wider. And that looks really good. I like the wider setting. And this is a great looking blog post. So we'll go ahead and publish this now, and you can see it live. Say, have a look. Okay, here is what our article looks like right now. So it looks really good. Now we can just go in and tweak some of the formatting and it will be all set. And I will show you how to create a system so that you don't have to set this up every time you go to create a blog post using Elementor templates. So let's first come back in here and we're going to click on Edit Single Post. It's going to take us out of this article and bring us into that single post template so we can edit the header and the footer. Okay, so you'll see now that we've got the blue boxes around the parts we can edit, and then it turns yellow for the post content. So we are now back into our template. So we're going to come up here to the title, and I want to select this section here. So for the metadata, let's come here to this custom section. And for the icon, we want to say none. And for the terms, we also want to say none for that. And the before section, you can say whatever you want here. I'm just going to say categories with a colon, and I might even do a line beforehand to really separate. Now on the Copyblogger blog post, they had filed under, so you can do that as well if you'd like. Now let's come over here to the style. We can play with the space between the two. That looks good. Oh, and it looks like there's actually a divider already here. So let's go back to our content, come here, and I'll get rid of it in front of this and come into our style section. We can change the weight here and we can make it a little taller. Oh, 100% looks good. Change the color, and I'm going to make this faint. Okay, and that looks good. I'm going to adjust the space now. We'll style our text now. Okay, and make it a little bit smaller. That looks good. The last thing I want to do is I want to add a little bit of space between everything up top here. So I'm going to come into my advanced section, click on M's on link, and add a little on the top and a little on the bottom. Okay, this looks really good. I chose a bad image for this example, so I'm going to change this in the post to be one that's more full width across the page instead of up and down like this. Again, I would suggest editing any images in Canva to make them more of a rectangle shape than a square, because that'll fit better with your posts, kind of like this image down here inside the actual post. Okay, so let's go down to the footer and let's play with the spacing on this as well. So now that we can see what the article looks like in here, I just want to add a little bit of spacing in between everything down here as well. So let's come down here to this section, go into advanced, and add a little padding on the top. Let's see what one looks like. That looks good. And then under this section, the share the post section, we'll go to advanced, unlink, click on M's and add one to the bottom. And this looks good. The last thing I want to do is, if you are going to add this sidebar to your post, then I would suggest changing the width of everything down here in your footer. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. We're going to come here to the layout, to the content width, and this looks good. I just want to add a little padding now to make this more centered inside my opt-in box. And let's see, we set this section width to 1020. We're going to do the same thing down here at the bottom. We'll come into our layout and we'll change this to 1020. Now, if we take a look at this, it is more aligned with the width of our article. Okay, in order to get back into our article now, we are not able to just click down into the post content and start editing it. So we've got to actually exit to the dashboard and go back into our post. Okay, we're back in our post now. And what you can do now is come up top here. And because this is all contained in one main outer container, we can click on this section tab and right click and say save as template. And I would call this your blog post content template. So anytime you start a new blog post, you're going to add this content template into it. So I'll show you how this works. We will save this section to our library. And you can see in your templates here, I have a lot in here, but the type, we've got pages and sections and posts. We've got our header and our footer. So that tells you what you're working with. So we're going to go ahead and get out of here. We're going to update this post and we're going to exit to our dashboard and start a new blog post. Okay. So we're going to click on Add New, give your post a keyword-focused title. You're going to come down and post that keyword into your focus key phrase. You're going to look at your SEO title, make it green if you can, and come down to your meta description. You want to make this keyword-focused as well until you get a green. And you can see here in this Google snippet, I didn't show you this earlier, but how the keyword-focused title is bold. Like if I put random text in here, you'll see where it's not bold, but anything that has my focus key phrase in it is showing up in bold. So Google is recognizing that my keyword is not only in my meta description, but it's in my SEO title and it's in the title of my article. So everything is connected and that is a good thing. So we're going to come over here on the right-hand side and assign a category. Let's say that this one is in self-care. Parent primary category is blogs. You can add your tags if you'd like and then set a featured image. Now we can save this as a draft and go into edit with Elementor, and our blog post has the header section and the footer section already pulled over. And you can see where our featured image is kind of small for this full width, so you might want to go in and edit your single post and make this bigger than the 50% we have it set at now that you see this image size. But what I want to show you now is to come in here now, we're going to select templates instead of adding all of our text and come into my templates, and now you want to grab this blog post content template section and you're going to insert. Do you want to import the document settings? Say no, because this is just a section. I only say yes if it's an entire page. And there, now you have your template format for all of your blog posts. So you can come in and every time you need a new heading, you can just right click and duplicate or copy and paste a new heading. If you want to add another image, you can right click and copy, and you can really quickly get yourself a great looking and highly converting blog post by using this template setup. So hopefully you can see how amazing Elementor is for setting all of this up in your business, and it will help you to be so much faster in creating your content and creating really great content as well. So the last and final step is to actually create your blog post page on your website. So we'll go ahead and publish this post. I'm going to fix this header image really quick. Okay, and I set it to 95 and I think that looks great. Okay, so for our blog page, we are going to need to create another template. So we're going to come over here to templates, come to theme builder. We're going to go into the new theme builder, say try it now. Here we've got our header, our footer, we've got a single post template, and now we want to come over here to a single page, and we're going to close out of this. We just need a really simple page to display all of our blog posts. So the first thing I'm going to do is create the header section at the top. So I'm going to go back into my website. This was the home page I used for the bio section, and I'm going to go ahead and say preview changes. I'm going to go into my about section. Okay, and it looks like I did something wrong where all of my website pages now have this header and footer on it. So I'm going to go back in to my Elementor here. We are going to exit to the dashboard, come into your theme builder templates, go into the new theme builder, go into our single post template. And here we've got instances all singular. We need to edit these conditions, and we actually need it to be all posts. There we go. Now we want to save and close, and that should fix that problem for us. Okay, so we can X out of here. And now if I go back into my About page and I refresh, it should go back to normal. Okay, so just a little example there. If you make a mistake, usually it can be easily fixed. Now that I'm in my About page, I want this header banner because I want to use this consistent header banner across all the pages on my website. So I'm going to say Edit with Elementor. And I'm going to come here to this tab and I'm going to right click and say Copy. I'm going to come back into my theme builder. And I'm going to come here to my single page that I started, and we're going to click here and say edit, and we're going to right click and say paste. I'm going to get rid of this text down below, and I'm just going to edit this title heading to say latest blog posts. And I think I'm going to make this section just a little bit smaller right now. It is set to 400. Let's make it about 325. Looks good. Now we're going to come down here and click on our plus sign, choose a single column. We want to come here to our widgets, and we're looking for a posts widget. And this is the one we want right here. So we'll drag that in, and you can see it's pulled over our blog post, and now we can style this. So the skin right now is set to classic, but you've got cards, or you can do full content, and that will actually show your full article. I like the cards. I think it's really clean and simple. I like a lot of the default settings already. 3 columns and 6 posts per page is good. Show the image, yes. Masonry, you can play with turning this on or off. Right now, I'm going to leave it off. You can play with the image size. You can make this large if you'd like. You can play with the ratio here. And the ratio is really helpful if you want to get the full width of your image in there. You can play with how long you want the little excerpt from your article to be. Somewhere between 25 and 50 is generally good. Let's see what happens if we put 50 in here. That looks good. You can play with the metadata down here. I actually don't want to show any of the metadata, and you can choose to show the read more or turn it off. You can choose to have this open in a new window. I don't think that's necessary because you're still on your website page. And then right here where it says blog, it's showing the category, and you can change this to whatever you want this to be, but we're going to turn it off. I don't want to show that. And for the avatar, I don't want to show that either. Okay, and then the query here is if you wanted to create a page just for blog posts, and if you do have a podcast or YouTube video page, you could come in here and say include by term and choose a certain category. And here you've got your categories for blog posts. You could choose that and we'll only show the posts that are in that category. So this is a great way to separate all of your content on your website. We don't need to say that right now though, because everything is a blog at the moment. So I'll leave that off. You can put these in a certain order. If you want these by date or in a different order, you can go ahead and do that. We're going to leave ignore sticky posts on, and we're not going to do anything for query ID. And the pagination you can turn on once you have multiple blog posts that go onto multiple pages. And when you do that, you can come in here and decide on how you want to format it. But we'll leave it at none for now. Then you can come over here to the style. Now you can play around with the column and the row gaps, but we're going to come in here to the card. We're not going to set any kind of a border. We're going to leave the box shadow. And this hover effect is set to gradient, and it's actually making our images a little bit darker. I don't know if you can tell with these particular images, but if we turn it to none, you can see that gradient goes away and they're brighter. So I'm going to leave that at none. We're going to come here to the image, and you can play with the spacing between the image and the title of your article, and then the content. So we definitely want to change our title. Let's choose a darker color, and I'm going to make the typography uppercase and play with the letter spacing. And we might want to make that weight just a little bit heavier. Okay, I think that looks really good. Now let's come in here to our excerpt and let's make this typography just a little bit bigger. And let's play with the line height. All right, 1.6 looks really good. Okay, and the last section here is the read more, and I actually like it in my accent text colors, so I'm going to leave it. I'm just going to make it just a little bit bigger. So now the last thing that we want to do is just add a little bit of space between our header and our footer, and our blog page is all set up. So we're going to select this tab, come into advanced, click on M's, unlink, and we'll add 3 to the top. And I generally like to double it for the bottom. Okay, this looks really good. And right now we only have 2 articles posted. But when we have a third one, it'll be next to it, and then we'll have another row of 3. And then after 6, you will have the pagination to take you to more blog posts from there. So we'll go ahead and publish this. And where do you want to display your template? We're going to say include pages, and instead of all pages, we only want this on our blog. We'll choose blog page and say save and close. Okay, so now we'll go in to our actual website. website, come here to blog, and this should pull up our blog page now. And that's everything you need to set up your blog and content system on your website. If you want to get your hand on any of the free templates we've been using to build out this website, I'll leave that link down below, and I'll also link to my template shop where you can get everything that we just created in this video as well. So make sure you check that out, and I'll see you guys again soon.